Hello, people. Welcome back to another video by your good friend Chad Marco, the big Anarchy. Make sure you guys smash that like button. And I know you guys are wondering where have I been. I haven't uploaded on the main channel in almost like 2 weeks. And truthfully, the first week of the month, I was just kind of focused on trying to figure out what I wanted to do this month for videos, and then I was also playing too much Fallout 4. Way too much. But we are back and I'm dropping more videos, doing more streams, etc, etc, etc. So this video is called I Took My Driver's License Test. Oh, this is a good one. So you guys know that I just started driving maybe about 2 years, give or take, ago. I had got my learner's permit, which was a challenge in of itself, because the thing about getting my learner's permit was that, you know, I had to take a test, and it was a multiple question test. I think it had like 25 questions or something like that, 20 or 25. And if you got, I think, 6 or more wrong, then you would fail the test. And I failed that thing like, I think probably like 3 or 4 times or something like that. And then I finally ended up getting my learner's permit. But the thing about a learner's permit is that it's not a license. A learner's permit is basically so that you can learn how to drive. So it gives you permission to drive while you have somebody else on the car who has a license, sort of guiding you and being accountable for you. Now, when I first got my learner's permit, you know, my mom, she would ride with me to kind of show me the ropes and things like that. But I hated driving with my mom. I hated it because my mom was just so fearful of me doing something stupid or getting into an accident, and just like, she would be a nervous wreck, and she would make me nervous by association. So, and I really just didn't have anybody else around that had the time to drive with me whenever I needed to, you know, take lessons or anything. So I was pretty much just riding dirty. You guys know I was just pretty much riding dirty for 2 years on a learner's permit, hoping that I wouldn't get pulled over or anything like that. And luckily, you know, during that time, nothing happened. But like, for me, the reason why I did that though was because I knew that I had to really make a decision and take charge. Like, I knew that I needed to learn how to drive, and I could not wait on my mom. I could not wait on anybody else to do it for me. So that's why I feel like I had to do that. I had to just kind of take matters into my own hand and just teach myself how to drive, pretty much. And so throughout that whole period, I've been driving. When I had a job, I was driving to work, driving to the store, driving uptown, driving to the gym, running errands for my mom. You know, my mom didn't like me, you know, going out and driving without her and stuff like that initially, but now she kind of understands why I had to take charge and do that. And so she kind of embraced it as well. And I would run errands for her or drive her places and things like that. And so, yeah, I've pretty much just been driving without any sort of like serious incident over the course of the last 2 years with my learner's permit. But of course, you know, I want to have an actual license so that I won't be riding technically dirty. I'll be a legal driver. I can drive wherever I want, go where I want, and I won't have to worry about being pulled over or anything like that. So me and my mom, we've been discussing when I should try and get my license. And what really held me up, because I feel like I've had a decent grasp of driving over the course of these last 2 years. But the thing is, in my state, you can't get a driver's license without insurance. And of course, insurance costs money. And so we've been kind of waiting on me to get my next job before I would get the insurance to get the driver's license. But my mom was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna go ahead and we're just gonna just try to get you this license. I'm gonna get you some insurance, and we're just gonna do it. And I'm like, fine. And so she got the insurance, which put me in position to where I can actually take the driver's test to try to get my driver's license. And so once she told me that it was game time, you know, and to be fair, I felt but I felt at least somewhat confident. Because I've gotten, 2 years of driving experience under my belt. It's not like I've been everywhere, but just around my town, certain routes and things like that. Like I'm comfortable. So I was like in my mind, I was just thinking like, I have a good chance of at least not making a complete ass of myself taking the driver's test. But my expectation was that I might have to take it 2 or 3 times. That was basically what I was expecting. I was kind of preparing myself for that. So the day comes where it's time for me to go and take my driver's test. So we go to the DMV and, I present my information, my learner's permit, my ID, address, the insurance paper and all that. And they're ready to go. And so I wait a little bit and then they give me, or they assign me a driving instructor or just somebody to watch me drive and take notes and consider whether or not I'm worthy of the streets. And so the first thing we did, so we went outside and I was kind of surprised, like they make you drive your own car. So like, I don't think they have like a designated car. Like you have to drive your car. And I guess really that kind of works out for me because that's the car that I'm comfortable with. So the first thing we do, he's standing outside of the car and he tells me to get inside of the car and to show him that I know how to use the turning signals. And so he says, turning signal left, turning signal right. And what kind of made it awkward was that I couldn't hear him because I closed the door. So I had to open the door, like, what? He was like, turning signal left. And then, so I showed him that I knew how to use the turning signals. And then after that, we get into the car. And me being a cheeky bastard that I am, I tell him to put his seatbelt on. I tell him to put his seatbelt on. Oh man, that probably not very smart, but I was in a good mood. And so he gives me the basic rundown that, he's going to give me instructions on what to do, that he's not going to tell me anything wrong, and that he's going to be taking notes while I'm driving. All right. So I pull out of, or rather I'm pulling out of the space where I'm parked, and then I'm pulling out of the DMV parking lot. And basically just doing everything that I know, and I always consider myself to be a careful, cautious driver. So I'm really relaxed. In fact, the thing was, before I actually took the test and I was sitting in the DMV, I was nervous. But I was able to calm myself down by reminding myself that, it's normal to be nervous in situations like that. And that kind of helped me relax. And so by the time I was getting, we were doing the test, I was super relaxed, and even somewhat confident. And so we pull out of the parking lot and we're just driving down the street, and then everything is just normal. I feel like I'm just comfortable. And then he tells me to take a right turn. And so I make the right turn, and that's where I made my first mistake. And so he said that when I made my right turn, I did it too fast. He said that when I'm turning, I need to slow down more so I can make a more smooth turn. And he noted how when I turn, if I'm in the right lane, about to make a right turn, that as I'm turning, because I'm on the accelerator too hard, I bleed over into the left lane a little bit before I adjust all the way into the right lane. So that's the first thing that he noticed. And it kind of caught me by surprise because I wouldn't say it's not something that I haven't noticed, but it was the way he said it, about how he said I was making the turn too fast. And I think that's because of the tendency for us to want to whip the car. Like, you know how you want to whip into the, you want to whip to the right. And, but he was like, nah, you should actually, like when you're making those turns, you should actually be going, I don't know if I would say very slow, but from his perspective, I was going too fast there. And so I was like, cool, great. And then, so we're continuing. And then he says, I forgot what he said, but he kept telling me how I was going too fast. And I'm like, hold up. I'm right, and I promise you, I'm right under the speed limit. Like the speed limit in that area was like 45 to 55. And I'm like, what is he talking about? What does he mean I'm going too fast? But looking back, he was talking about like more like specific situations. Like he said I was going too fast going out of the parking lot, going too fast making that turn. Even though I wasn't going over the speed limit, he said that I would rush making certain maneuvers. But when he said that, that started to kind of like chip away at my confidence a little bit. And I started to get kind of nervous. And then he told me to park beside the curb. And I swear, dude, like something so simple that I've done before, I fuck up. So I'm trying to park on the curb and I end up hitting the curb. I say, boom. I said, and right there, I was like, I failed this fucking test. I said, that's it. I hit the curb. And the thing was, bro, like it was so fucked up because that's something that I've done several times before. I would pull up to the curb like in front of my house if I need to get out and get back in the truck real quick again. So I knew how to do it, but I think it was the fact that he was calling me out on the little things I was doing wrong. It made me nervous, and I ended up bumping the curb a little bit when he told me to park next to the curb. And when I hit that curb, I was like, that's it. Boom. I'm gonna have to take it again. And so right there, he starts chewing me out a little bit. Not like yelling or nothing, but he's just going over everything that I pretty much just told you guys. Like every little thing that he noticed I did wrong up to that point. Pulling out of the parking lot too fast, making a turn too fast, and of course hitting the damn curb. Then he tells me, okay, we're gonna turn around and we're gonna make a 3-point turn. And this is where I have to take accountability here, because this was definitely where I got overconfident. So my mom, she kept telling me, they're gonna ask you about the 3-point turn, 3-point turn, 3-point turn. And so I was like, yeah, okay. And so I looked it up and I was like, that's so simple. Like that ain't like I saw it and I knew that I'd done it before. So I was like, oh, that ain't shit. So I'm not too like whatever. When it came time to do it, I forgot the exact step to do the 3-point turn. And so he basically instructed me on how to get the 3, because I think I had reverse first instead of like I got one of the steps out of order. But when he saw that, he just gave me the correct steps to do it, and I went ahead and did it. And then we're driving again. And so he tells me, stop the car as if there is a kid out of nowhere running across the street. And I'm like, okay, but when? Like, is it like a 1, 2, 3, like now? Or is it 1, 2, 3, go? Like, is it 1, 2, 3? And he just said go. And I just, boom, hit the brake. And like hit the brake like hard. Because, of course, you don't want to hit a kid running across the street. So I'm like, okay, well, of course, if that's the case, you just hit the brake as hard as you can. Just stop the car. It's better you have a hard brake than to kill somebody, to kill a kid, right? And he didn't have an issue with that. So I'm assuming I got that one right. And so we're going back onto the main road. And so another mistake that I made was as I was making the turn to the left. Now I'm trying to get it right. It's one of those streets where it's 2 lanes, but it's one way, right? And so when I was turning, I got into the right lane. And he said that when you're making a turn like that, always turn into the lane closest to you. Even if you're supposed to be in the other lane to get to where you're going. Because my mom always taught me, be in your right lane as much as you can so you don't have to switch lanes. And so that's why when I made that turn, I got right into the lane that I knew that I had to be in, or thought that I had to be in. But he was like, no matter what, always turn into the lane closest to you. And then if you got to be in the other lane, change lanes. So I'm like, okay, I fucked up again. Ain't right? I'm gonna have to take this test again. And so we're driving back, and then so basically we just left for like 10 minutes and then turn right around, and then he tells me to just go right back to the DMV. So I said, yep, that's it. I fucked up. Like, like we were only going for like 10, 15 minutes. And so I was like, yeah, it's like I fucked up too many times. And then he said, so I'm going to pass you. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what, nigga? And so this is how he explained it to me. He said, I can tell that you know how to drive, but you're still a beginner driver. And there are obviously things that you need to work on that you could do better. He said that based on the number of mistakes I made, he could have failed me. But he said that overall, he felt that I had a good grasp of how to drive. And that's why he passed me. He just wanted me to work on the specific things that he outlined. Going too fast in the parking lot, going too fast when I'm turning, the turning into the closest lane when you're making those kind of turns, instead of, you know, even if it's not the lane you want to be in, turn into the closest lane. And of course, the little technical things like the 3-point turn and whatnot. And so, and this is me, you know, you guys know I always ask the worst questions. And so I said, well, look, if you could have failed me, why are you going to pass me? And he basically said, because I can tell that you know how to drive. You know how to drive. It's just that it's some things you need to work on. And I was like, sir, thank you so much. And I promise I would take everything you said to heart, and I would work on the things that you pointed out today. And you know, one thing that I think kind of made me a little bit too confident was that I kind of felt like I drove like my mom. Like my mom is a very careful, cautious driver. And I noticed like when I would ride with my friends, like they would kind of look at my driving like I would drive too slow. Like I was being too careful. And so that kind of made me think that, well, that might not be good in certain situations, but for a driving test, if I'm driving too careful, then that might be fine. And so when he was telling me like, oh, you're going too fast here or you're rushing there, you know, that kind of threw me off, because I think I kind of had it in my mind that I was almost an overly cautious driver based on like comparing how I drive with how my friends drive. And because they drive a bit more like aggressively. They're not bad drivers, but they just drive more aggressively. And so I wasn't too worried about that. I felt like if I made any mistake, it was not going to be me going too fast or coming across as a reckless driver. And so when he said that, that really threw me off. I would have expected to make a mistake on the technical things. Again, 3-point turn, parallel park. I would expect that, but I didn't expect to be criticized for, you know, just rushing or doing certain maneuvers too fast. That threw me off. But look, he noticed it. He said it. I took it to heart. And thankfully, he passed me. And so just like I told him, everything that he told me, I've been applying it to my driving moving forward. You know, every little detail, everything that he called me out on, I've been paying attention to the way I turn, how fast I'm going when I'm turning, and when I'm in the parking lot, how fast I'm going in the parking lot. So I took everything he said into consideration, and I'm still working on just trying to apply, you know what he said. But thankfully, I got my damn driver's license. Yes, this is a big victory for Chad Marco. This is a big victory for failure to launch men who have not gotten their driver's license, who don't know how to drive. Because, you know, I see it all the time. You see a lot of guys who, you know, it's not just men who are virgins or don't have jobs as adults or into their adult ages. Like, it's also guys who don't know how to drive. And I've seen threads of guys in their 20s and even 30s who never drove before and how they perceive driving. And I felt the same way. Like, when you don't know how to drive, it's almost like magic or looking at somebody performing magic. Like, it's hard to imagine yourself doing it. Like, it seems so difficult. It seems so stressful. And so when I first started driving, of course, that was how it felt because of how I perceived it to be in my head because I was inexperienced. But over time, you know, I started to figure it out and I became more and more comfortable with driving. I would say it probably took me about maybe 6 months for me to really feel comfortable driving, and to the point where I could figure out how to do certain things even when I was suddenly out of my comfort zone on the road. I would just figure out how to do it, you know. It took about 6 months for that, and now here I am 2 years later, and I finally got my driver's license. And I know, you know, normally you're supposed to get it at 16 to 18, but for me, it means a lot that I finally got it, that I proved that I could get it. But I have to give the biggest shout out to my driving instructor, because the way he passed me, even though he didn't have to, I really appreciated that. And the reason why I say that is because, you know, kind of like when I look back at that job interview at Planet Fitness, it's not that I couldn't do the job. I know I could do the job. You guys know I could do the job. And I know I could do a damn good job of the job. But where I fucked up and what stopped me from getting in the door was those little technical things. It was the interview, the questions. Despite being qualified to do the job, I didn't get it because of a technicality, because I answered a goddamn question wrong or this or that, right? And with that guy, my driving instructor who passed me, what I love about him was that he didn't allow that to stop me from getting the opportunity, because he could tell this motherfucker know how to drive. I'm not gonna fail him because he messed up on a 3-point. So he could everything that I messed up on, I could figure it out in a fucking day or two. And so why fail me based on those little things when I did everything else right? And that's what I really appreciated about it. And I think that's what I really needed. And don't get me wrong, like, that's not an excuse to ignore those details, those technical things that can allow you to get opportunities. Cause still, you know, had I really applied myself and studied what I needed to do for the driving test better, I could have avoided some of the little mistakes I made during that test. But I'm lucky that I had a driving instructor who was able to look past those little mistakes and to see that overall he knows how to drive. I'm not gonna fail him because he fucked up on this little thing that he can figure out right with just a little bit of advice and a little bit of practice. Unlike the job interview situation where I would miss out on a job because I didn't answer a question right. Even though I'm an able-bodied, strong young man that can, whatever. But yeah, man, great news from Chad Marco. I finally got my driver's license. I'm going to definitely make sure that I make the most of it and that I continue to be as safe and cautious and responsible of a driver that I can possibly be. And let this be a motivation to all the older men and older women out there who maybe just haven't gotten their driver's license yet. Because I know how it feels. I know how intimidating it is, you know, when you don't know how to drive and just how it looks from the outside looking in. It's like, how do they do that? How do they control these big machines and stay in the lanes and then pay attention to the speed and the signs and the traffic lights and then other cars? but it's possible. It's possible. And once you get into it, you understand like, oh, okay, I got it. Yeah, it's not rocket science. It's really simple, right? So many people from different walks of life and levels of IQ, reckless to the safest drivers. So many people figure it out and manage to, drive and make it a part of their life. I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and I will see you on the next. So, Johnny.